Hi, Brian Howard from feelingnegative.com again, and this is our second video episode. The first one, I took you guys on a tour of the darkroom, kind of as it was put away. This time around, we're going to look at developing paper negatives that I shot with my pinhole camera for the DIY large format project that we're running. So in this box right now, I've actually got an exposed paper negative, and we're going to go ahead and pull that out, and then I'll show you how to develop it with a film developer to get a good negative image that we can work with. Alright, so here's my basic setup for 8x10 tray developing. So I've got my developer, stop bath, and fixer in that order, so I can just kind of move down the line as I work with the paper and into the tub for a wash. In the developer tray, I've got agfa-rodenol at 1 to 100 dilution, very low, so I'm going for a low contrast with this particular developer. Stop bath, Ilford, Ilfastop, same stuff for film as paper, and that's at 1+19. And the rapid fixer from Ilford is at, I used it at 1+9 for this particular setup. So, and that's also good for film and paper. So let's go ahead and flip on the light, the safe light, and start working. Okay, so I've gone ahead and pulled the paper negative out of the camera, and you can see it's pretty blank right now because we haven't developed it yet. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in there, run the timer. This is going to be a bit of an experiment for me because I haven't run this dilution yet, and I underexposed a little bit because I wanted to see what it would do. So let's go ahead and drop this in. I'm just going to go ahead and run the timer up instead of down so I can just kind of watch the timer as I'm watching the print. So I'm going to eyeball this one. When I go to put this in, I usually try to get it in there really quickly and then shake the tray around to cover it up without touching the print, because you can leave marks on it. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this in. So for this, I'm going to just agitate here right up front, and I'm going to go ahead and let it sit for a little. Typically when I'm doing prints, I'll do a constant agitation just because that's what I'm used to doing, and that's what, you know, I have all my settings work out to. But with this, I want kind of a lower contrast. I shot out in sunlight this time, and I think it's going to be pretty high contrast. So it might take a little while to show up, longer than usual probably, because I'm running such a low dilution on it. The 1 to 100 is fairly low. But we should start seeing an image pretty soon here. So after about 2 minutes, we've got a decent image in here, and it's still kind of darkening. I'm going to go ahead and let it darken so that my darks are almost fully dark, because I still don't have a whole lot of highlight detail here, which are actually our shadows. So it is going to turn out fairly high contrast, but we'll just let it sit in here longer. With the Rodenol, you just let it go longer and you can get more development out of it. One thing to note if you're eyeballing these is they turn out a lot lighter than what you would think. In the darkroom under the safe light, they might look like your blacks are black, but they're probably not. Usually I'll wait for it to look dark, and then I'll take it a little bit further. With these negatives, it's not as huge of a deal. When you're printing though, you just use the standard time, but when you're eyeballing stuff like this, you want it to turn out decent. And it looks like we're just about there. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out and put this in the stop bath. It looks like we're just about there. When you're moving from tray to tray, don't cross-contaminate, especially backwards. That's why I have 3 sets of tongs, so that this never touches this chemical, this one never touches that chemical. You can drip this direction, but not that direction. So the stop bath, I'm not really timing any of this out, but Stop bath, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 seconds. You'll feel it. It'll go from slimy to kind of sticky. It'll make that squeaky sound. So that's taken care of. We'll drain that. And then we'll go for the fixer, and this is going to sit in the fixer for about 1 to 1.5 minutes. And I will time this one because I don't want to overdo it. And I don't want to underdo it. These I like to do a constant agitation just to make sure that I'm getting it good and fixed. So there's 1 minute. So at this point we can go ahead and turn on lights and everything else because our print is not sensitive to light anymore. So we'll go ahead and flick the light on real quick. Alright. Looks pretty good. Not bad for being a sunny day on a paper negative. So let this drip dry, and then we'll just put this in the wash, and we'll take a look at it when it's done washing. Alright, so I'm just finishing up with the wash. I've had it in here for about 3 or 4 minutes. It should be good and washed. I'm just running it directly into the water now. And we will go ahead and pull this out and dry it off and take a look at what we got. So we'll squeegee this guy down so that we don't get any nasty looking weird water spots on it. Alright, let's take a look. Hopefully you guys can see this, but you know, it turned out pretty decent. I don't really have any dark black areas on here. I probably didn't develop it quite long enough. I could have let it go a little bit longer. But I'm curious to see how this will work with the contact prints, because it may actually work out better. We might have more control over our highlight areas, which are these black areas here. So we might actually be able to pull some detail out of the sky. I've also got some very small amount of detail in here. Would have been nice to have a little bit more, but we'll see if we can work with it. They're probably going to be very dark areas. And we have decent amounts of midtones. So I think this came out okay. We'll go ahead and let this dry, and then the next episode we'll be looking at making contact prints from paper negatives. So we'll actually go ahead and make a real print out of that we can look at. So until next time.